They are finally addressing this, everybody. Lawmakers in Congress from both parties are showing support for another relief plan. The new plan would actually directly provide thousands of dollars to millions of low-income households that are struggling to pay for their monthly expenses. But some Republicans have signaled that they would like to implement strict eligibility requirements. So make sure to keep watching this, everybody, to find out what stimulus checks are going to be sent to you. Now, first of all, everybody, a bipartisan group of House members are planning on a recent legislative deal and plans to work on a proposal to beef up an existing tax credit for families with young children. The Problem Solvers Caucus has a group, and they're planning to launch a subcommittee to work on issues associated with the child tax credit. It's currently providing up to $2,000 per child, and it's a smaller benefit than one in place during 2021. It will be cut in half and applied to many fewer households, everybody. But a Ways and Means Committee member said the child tax credit came up during discussions about a debt limit this year, as the Problem Solvers Caucus aimed to build consensus on the measures that would help the American people out. The Problem Solvers Caucus includes 64 members, evenly split between Republicans and Democrats, who aim to work across the aisle. The group typically requires 75% support among its members to endorse proposals. Whether a bipartisan tax package comes together this year may hinge on negotiations around the child tax credit. A representative said he has an interest in aiding the low-income households that earn too little to get the benefits under the bill, and he has convincingly won recent elections and is still on the Democrats' target list for next year. He plans to ask representatives to be involved in the child tax credit discussions. And when Democrats were considering extending the child tax credit expansion, he said the benefits should be better targeted to benefit low-income households for a longer period of time, and the current maximum credit applies to $400,000. Even representatives specifically praised the party proposal to permanently make the credit fully refundable, which would have meant that families with little or nothing in federal income taxes could still claim the full amount. Top Republicans have said they're not interested in the revival of Democrats' signature expansion. Still, there were hints at a Finances, Taxation, and IRS Oversight Committee hearing last week of potential interest in working across the aisle on the child credit. Even some subcommittee chairmen actually agreed on this, and economic growth has benefited the wealthy while keeping middle class behind and lowering the income thresholds for the poverty. Now, the senators are holding a series of roundtable discussions for lawmakers to work on the child credit and ways to alleviate the poverty. And so far, this Congressional Budget Office has estimated that making the current law and current child tax credit permanent will cost $600 billion plus through the fiscal year 2033. While enlarging it back to the 2021 policy, it can cost up to $100 billion a year just to get things done. One-time payments will be arriving for millions of Americans soon, and the administration has approved $39 billion in relief. State lawmakers are now approving legislation that would allow more low-income households to receive SNAP benefits. The SNAP program has undergone modifications this year, affecting 42 million citizens participating in the program. SNAP benefit amounts vary based on people's household size, monthly income, and other expenses.
Broken and dysfunctional. Our educational system is teetering. While we have one of the highest rates of childhood poverty of almost any major country, millions of parents in Vermont, Nevada, all over this country are unable to find affordable and quality child care. Major, major crisis, which is only going to become worse as a result of the cliff that the child care folks are going to be experiencing in a few months. But it's not just child care. When we talk about education, we should appreciate that the number of our young people who graduate from college today is falling further and further behind other countries. In other words, we need to have the best educated country on earth in order to compete internationally, yet other countries are seeing a greater percentage of their young people graduating college. And one of the reasons is the high cost of college. And many young people do not want to go $50,000 or $100,000 in debt to get a college or graduate school degree. And today we have 45 million Americans who are struggling under the weight of student debt, something that President Biden, I, and others have been trying to deal with. But it is not only climate, it is not only healthcare, it is not only education. Today, all over this country, we're seeing a massive crisis in terms of low-income and affordable housing. While gentrification is causing rents,
companies lay off workers to bolster their balance sheets. The rate is around 3.7%, just a little above the 5-decade low since before the crisis. To press the fight against inflation that she said is hurting lower-income Americans the most. That will mean more interest rates increases and keeping rates higher for longer. The majority of people now say price increases are causing financial hardship for households, and up to 49% in January and 45% in November. Millions of people are going to see a decrease in their monthly benefit checks. Democrats and Republicans are being urged to approve an expansion of monthly child tax credit payments. A relief proposal has been put forward that would send out $350 checks every month to eligible Americans. And now, new food insecurity data, released by the U.S. Department of Agriculture today, provided the latest evidence that the enhanced child tax credit and other relief programs passed in the first 2 years of the crisis significantly helped millions of people to support their families last year. And with much of the aid now ripped away, households are again struggling to make ends meet. The agency's annual report on food security showed that about 1 in 10 homes, or about 13.5 million households, they didn't have enough food in 2021. Overall food insecurity remained the same from 2020 to 2021 and grew worse for older Americans. The report says that the prevalence of food insecurity declined from 2020 to 2021 for a few population subgroups, including households with children under age 18 and with children under age 6. Last year, 6.2% of households with children were unable to provide adequate and nutritious food for their children.
Exhausted and want the government out of their lives, out of our personal lives. And Justice Thomas's opinion about nullifying marriages, about getting rid of birth control, is an extreme overreach. This is a country built on freedom, and it is time for us to stand up. The exhausted majority, Democrats, Republicans, and independents, saying we want limited government and we want it out of the private lives of American citizens, especially the women of the United States. Madam Speaker, I rise to talk about a very important issue in this country. This country is a country that has been and was founded on the idea of freedom. This country has fed more people, clothed more people, cured more people, and liberated more people than all the other countries in the world combined. And the source of American power has always been the great American middle class, which we need to have an aggressive policy to rebuild. And the strength of the American middle class has always been connected to our energy policy. Do we have a policy in this country that will allow us to dominate the world in manufacturing, to dominate